the matchup report. We're returning from it's really kind of a little hiatus for us as we had to deal with some busy time for us here during the summer, but happy to be back here and especially happy to be back talking about football. We're going to start doing our NFL preview shows right now. We're going to go through two divisions each show over the course of the month of August. So today, for example, we'll be doing the AFC and the NFC North, and I know that both of us we were texting on the side about this, like, all right, cool, like it's like the NFL is just always so much fun. And it's always a lot of fun, like prepping for these shows and like kind of reviewing everything that happened in the off season. It's like, okay, training camp starts. Like, here we go. Like, and I mean, the Hall of Fame game
Yeah,
is happening as we're speaking. So it's like, I think this is like, all right, cool. NFL is here. So definitely very excited to talk about it. But Jay, man, how you been doing?
it has been a very long wait of just missing the NFL to for me, like even covering the NFL draft and everything tied to that. And it was like you get this feeling of like, oh dang, like this is gonna be so cool to see these players in action. And it's like you gotta wait a couple months to see it. And now
Yeah.
a couple months has hit, and now we're really starting to get a sense of like which direction these teams are heading in. And I think it could be shaping up to a really good season. Honestly, there's a lot to like needs to be seen, and I think that that'll be the biggest disclaimer about all this. I've been very wrong about a lot. You've been very wrong about a lot. Raiders, um, and I'll say my biggest blunder is definitely, and this isn't even NFL. It's the Rob Dillingham like belief that I had. It was insane. I still look back at that and I think like, wow, like that one's probably my worst take. If like he could lead the Timberwolves as the guard, but I either way, back to the NFL, it's been really cool. Just kind of seeing how this is shaped up, all the drama naturally that comes with it, and we're here to tackle it all. So naturally, because these episodes end up being long and we're talking about a lot, um, we have decided to come up with what I'll call the 8 teams, 8 minutes. So over the next 4 weeks, we will be tackling, for example, like this week will be AFC North and the NFC North, and then next week AFC East and NFC East, and we will spend 8 minutes on each team in the division. So we'll literally leave the timestamps of if this is your team, check this out. But I would suggest you watch the entire thing because I like to think that we bring good analysis from all the new additions that they've made, all the coaching changes that they've made, and where we think they're heading. And so this is what's going to happen for the next month, and then that final there'll be so next month 4 shows tackling AFC, all the AFC, East, North, West, South, all the NFC as well, and then the final one will be just a entirety of like here's our final MVP, Coach of the Year, Offensive Rookie of the Year, Offensive Player of the Year, all the NFL award talk, and some Super Bowl, deep Super Bowl very early. Here's what we think things stand. Obviously, that is a very deep, like, very hard to predict type of situation. But the way things are shaping out now, you can kind of, throw your guesses around.
Yeah, definitely. And actually, this is good. I want to transition. Like, let's get to it, man. But like, I did want to ask you, like, when we set up these shows, I think every like anybody that covers any sport, like you or anybody in like media like this, you everyone has their own process in the way they go about things. Like, you have your preferences. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I know I prefer like even like when it comes down to like a team, it's like I prefer a team that goes in one direction with like maybe like their pass defense, whereas like someone else might be like, I don't worry about that as much. I'm more about like pressure numbers. So it's like I'm always interested in like I wanted to ask you about this as we start this NFL season. Like as you're going through and looking at these teams and making your predictions and like getting your thoughts and feelings about them, like what is your process for that? And like how do you, like is it like because I know a lot of it for me is like I am very like X's and O's focused, and I do look at the numbers, and I try to get a holistic view of everything. Like I want as many sources as I can get on anything and any information, so I can be as prepped as possible. But I do think there's always an innate feeling of like with anyone that does something like this, like you also have to follow your gut at times, right?
Yeah.
And like yeah, that can lead to you being like, hey, you know what? Like I know some things are saying this, but my gut is saying it may go this way, and that can lead to wrong predictions. But I do think that's also part of the fun of it.
Yes. I'll say that it's kind of a combination of everything for me, but I will say if there's the one time that I'm trusting my gut, it's more so with the rookies, just because I've
Mm,
made my own analysis of it. I've looked at like, I've watched like looking at the Ravens, like a Vig Ione and saying like, all right, I think he'll fit really well into the offensive line and what that'll look like. And at the same time, I would say like just in general, like I think we can only focus on what they have on paper and how and at the same time what we've seen from them in the past. Like it's a combination of like what we've seen from you last season, versus what you're bringing to the table now. And I think that's the biggest thing for me is like what changes have happened there where it's like you are significantly going in a positive direction, you're maybe staying the same, or this team is significantly worse. And I think because of that, like you can easily sort teams based off of that and then get a bigger picture of sort of things. So like a team like we will talk about them to the final week, so I'll bring them now. The 49ers, and you look at the injury history that they have, and every like it's crazy. I think I saw something like 20% of their roster has an injury of some sort, and I was like, that is scarily insane. Like, how are you doing this? Like, it is. It gets to the point where I'm like, do they just bring Brandon Ayuk back to just be like, hey, we need bodies like in the receiving room? Like,
I don't know if that's worth it, but yeah.
but like I think at some point you just have to start to have these conversations, and you look at like, all right, Washington doesn't want him anymore. Like, is it at least a thought? So I look at that type of situation and say like, just the 49ers as a whole, and like, where does that lead you? Like, where does that put you from last season? What direction do I see you trending it based off of that? And then kind of evaluating their roster. And it's like, I don't know. And I will say the final thing about this is that like I think coaching staff is a very underrated part of all of this, and I think the coaching staff changes as well. And I think that is a big focus of what I when I was looking through and making notes for this is like where did the coaching changes happen? And I think when you look at the AFC North, we're about to talk about a lot of coaching changes, a lot of craziness, and I think tracing back to where they came from, what type of system they were under, and just where they're coming from and what they're bringing to the table, I think is an important part about where to get a sense of where these teams are headed now. And I think that's something that I focus heavily on.
Yeah. All right. Well, with that in mind, let's get to it, man. Let's start talking about these teams. So like I said, we're starting with the AFC North. As you mentioned, it's a division that's going to look a lot different this year, with some personnel, but also just mainly like the coaches. I mean, we have coaching changes for the Ravens, Steelers, as well as the Browns. Those are like with the big like wholesale ones. Like all three of those teams have new head coaches and obviously coordinators that come with them. So it makes it very exciting, and that's part of like the fun of like predicting this stuff. Where you're like, okay, like we have three new head coaches in the division. You don't know exactly what like. There's nothing for us to go off on the past. Where it's like Jesse Minter, like with the Ravens, we'll get into that. Like he is the new head coach of the Ravens, coming over from the Chargers, where he had a very successful couple years with the Chargers over there with that Harbaugh before coming over to the team that replacing the other Harbaugh.
Oh, you're getting into the show. I'm gonna start our timer here for Ravens.
Oh, you're right. You know what? Sorry. I see.
So,
here we go.
see, look, this is why I gotta set our timer because this show will be like, 2 hours.
3 hours.
So, all right, 8-minute timer starts now. All right, I'll intro Baltimore Ravens here. 8-9 last season. You mentioned the coaching changes. Jesse Minter is your new head coach. He was formerly the Chargers defensive coordinator. Declan Doyle is their new offensive coordinator. He was under Ben Johnson last year with the Bears as their offensive coordinator. And then Anthony Weaver is their new defensive coordinator, formerly with the Dolphins.
Yeah, formerly with the Dolphins and with the Ravens, I think, with Harbaugh when he was there.
Yes.
Yeah. And then real quick with Declan Doyle, he's younger than me. He's the same age as Lamar Jackson. He just turned 30 this year, which was depressing to read when I was like looking at him. I was like, God, there's a 30-year-old out there calling offenses for Lamar Jackson. Like, that's got to be the most fun. But yeah, let's get to so Minter, man. Like, I think when we first talked about it when the hire happened, like I think we were both pretty big fans of him and like him like becoming a head coach. You can compare it a lot to like McDonald going over to the Seahawks. I think that's what the Ravens are hoping for.
Yes.
Because they lost McDonald and saw what he did with the Seahawks. And now you bring in Minter, you hope you can get some of the same stuff. Now, obviously, like there's a lot more that goes into it than that. But I mean, by all accounts, Minter is the guy who's going to come in here and he'll probably most likely get this defense right. I mean, we saw what he did with the Chargers. There's a lot of cover two. It was a lot of like, hey, you can make all these short passes you want, but we're gonna gang tackle. We're gonna rally every single time. We're gonna play aggressive in that way. So I think we'll see a lot of that with the Ravens here, and a lot of the stuff that he's bringing over is a lot of stuff that these players on the Ravens should be familiar with. And then I think, he had a Derwin James with the Chargers, but now he's got like a Kyle Hamilton, so he knows how to use a guy like that. And at this point in their careers, Kyle Hamilton, in my mind, is the better player. As big a fan as I am of Derwin James, I think he's one of the best safeties in the league. Kyle Hamilton is just, if you don't think he's the best in the league, you have to admit he's top 3 in the league at his position. So
if there wasn't a Will Anderson Jr. roaming around, I would probably be like Kyle Hamilton should be a defensive player of the year, but sack numbers and Myles Garrett, of course. But I'm thinking younger generation wise, he is still I would say he's in that conversation where you're starting to put him in defensive player of the year talks at this age, which is I think impressive to say. But following on that coaching standpoint, I think something that has always been the heart of the Ravens organization, dating back as long as I've been alive, has always been the defense. And I think the past couple seasons, and yes, a lot of this is due to injuries, which is my entire point of all this, is that like if this team is healthy and Jesse Mentor is doing what he was able to do in Los Angeles, I think this is a team that wins this division. And I stand by that because it's like the when this team is at their best, it's always been by their defensive identity, and historically that's always been the case. And I think they have the pieces, but a lot of it will depend on health, and a lot of it will depend on how these new additions like fit into this. And the newest addition of all this is Trey Hendrickson. Of course, with all of the chaos and the failed Max Crosby trade. We don't know if like still waiting to figure out what the deal is
Yeah.
with that and how that completely shook out. But I instantly improved their defensive line. No matter if they would have gotten Max Crosby, they got Trey Hendrickson, and it instantly can come in and improve their defensive line. I still like, and this is constantly where I look at this and say like I need to like see it is the health aspect of this because it's like yes, the defense is a crucial part of this. Their defense was completely banged up last year, which is why they needed Trey Hendrickson in there to bring some pressure so that this defense isn't out there, long drives and periods of time. You need a difference maker in defensive line to go out there and just settle things for you and make those big plays because Kyle Hamilton can't do it all for you. And they use him in so many different ways, but it's like at some point you just need other bodies on there to like make plays. And I think that was the biggest thing where it's like you see Kyle Hamilton out there, he's everywhere on the field for you, but it's like he's getting there and making these plays, but it's already 8 yard gain, 6 yard gain, and it's like all right, like you're already behind the sticks. You're trying to constantly keep up. And on the other side of the ball, can you protect Lamar Jackson? Like last year, I like you talk about the health aspect of it, and Lamar Jackson is a big part of it. But I don't necessarily blame him because he's constantly getting hit. The offensive line is protecting him. He's frustrated. You can see him, like there's constantly videos of him like slamming his helmet on because he's getting hit and he's hurt. And I think adding, I mentioned him earlier, Vega Ione out of Penn State, I think would be a really good addition to fix their interior. And I know, like obviously, like moving on from Dan Falele is like it's like every Ravens like dream. Like they were like he's not there anymore. Like Lamar's instantly protected no matter who you put there. And to add a rookie in Ione who like obviously there's going to be growing pains, but he was a really solid interior at Penn State, and I think he was to me, in my opinion, the best interior offensive line to come out of the draft. I think to get him at the value that they did was impressive. So I look at this and say I think this is a team that I think they'll be better than last season. With that being said, I think a lot of this depends on the health.
100%. And like going with the defense on that, like you have Matabike who's going to be back potentially for them, who like they're slowly working into like trying to get him early in the season to, and because if they can get him, I mean that's an all pro sort of like nose tackle that you have on your team
Yeah,
there. But they're still dealing with it like Travis Jones being injured, I'm pretty sure, but they brought in Calais Campbell, which is, by the way, can we just say Calais Campbell still being playing like he is right now and still being able to like contribute and be a productive D lineman at that age is honestly nuts.
it's
I mean, I'm not
impressive.
gonna say he's the LeBron James of the NFL, obviously, but like the fact that like he has that kind of longevity right now is it's awesome to see in the NFL. Like a guy like that do it. But I mean, like, honestly, this is the weird part about the Ravens. I have no worries about the defense. I don't like. It's just Jesse Minter, the personnel that they have. I just think that they're gonna figure it out. And I don't know if it's gonna happen right away. I feel like the first 3 weeks, if not the month of the season, is going to be a little tricky for them. But then once they get their feet settled, I think this could end up being a top five defense in the league.
Yeah,
But like I think I'm with you. Where like there's so many unknowns on the offensive side of the ball with Declan Doyle, right? This 30-year-old brand new offensive coordinator who, but like you say, he came from Sean Payton and Ben Johnson. So there's probably going to be a lot of eye candy in the backfield, which we'll talk about with a few of these teams actually, where a lot of teams are changing this stuff up. And then they're probably going to hunt explosives, but also like that run game is going to be extremely crucial for them again. And like you said, they revamped that interior O line. So as they get that going, I think if they can get the run game going again, they can find those explosives with newly paid Zay Flowers. Then I think this team could end up be like we could see Lamar Jackson have like another sort of. I'm not going to predict him as the MVP right now, but like I wouldn't be surprised if he put up similar numbers to those seasons.
yeah. And I think a big part of that is the receiving core, and they've also revamped that as well. Adding two rookies, Jacoby Lane and Elijah Surratt, both
Mm,
like completely different skill sets in a way where I think like it's completely different, but I think you're getting two players that like can both line up as X receivers for you. Like Jacoby Lane is really a go up and get it type of guy, put it out of reach of the other defenders at his height. And I think when you have a Zay Flowers, who's more of your over the middle, like put him in different packages and try different new stuff, where you're getting the creativity from a Ben Johnson, Sean Payton offense, you can move him around and have these like Jacoby Lane and Elijah Sherrod as your X receivers. So I'm really interested to see what that looks like and how that shakes out, because I like obviously there's going to be growing pains, and that'll be the same with all these rookies, like Ione Lane, Sherrod. But I still look at this and say like, this is a team that like I think they'll be much better than last season.
Hmm. If there is there anything that you think is like a glaring like okay, this is like what would hinder their entire season?
I keep going back to the health aspect of this.
Hmm.
Like, I think there's, and I'll say the health, but I'll also say, like, what does this team look like post Harbaugh? I think that's a big question as well. Like, yes, it's bright new, shiny candy, and Jesse Minter. And it's like, oh, shoot, like, this is a like cool deal. And I think our timer's up. I think it's big, nice, shiny candy and Jesse Minter. But, like, I think from a, um, a cultural standpoint, I think that's a big part of this that I think needs to be considered. And what does this team look like culturally post Harbaugh?
No, I completely agree, and I feel like PTI. We're like, okay, we went over time. Move on to the next subject. But all right, yeah. So Ravens, I am very excited for them, but we'll talk about our predictions for them at the end. But all right, next team, the Bengals. Let me know.
Steelers.
Oh, Steelers.
What'd you say?
What's
Oh,
that? We're
yes.
doing.
Okay, Steelers. 10-7 last season. We talked about the changes with the Ravens, and the Steelers said, "Don't forget us," because they went with Mike McCarthy as their new head coach. Brian Edgelicio is their new defensive coordinator. He was the pass game coordinator for Minnesota. And then Patrick Graham is their new defensive coordinator, and he was former defensive coordinator for the Raiders. Um, Thoughts on the coaching staff?
I'm a big Patrick Graham fan. Like I really everywhere he's been, like especially with there were some years in the Raiders too, where it's like he did so well with the like with not having that much good of like personnel on that side of the ball. So I think he's going to a team now where he's going to have a lot more to work with. And I think the most interesting piece of that may actually end up being Jalen Ramsey, who they've talked about moving him to more of like the Charles Woodson kind of role, where it's like, okay, you used to be this all pro corner, and now we're going to make you this all pro safety. And we've seen him do a lot of like nickel and dime stuff in the past. I mean,
Yeah.
even when he was with the Rams, he was that star player, that role that you have in that backfield for guys like that. And I think they're going to lean more into that this year with him. They're being kind of like cagey. I don't know why cagey is the right word, but like they're being kind of like low key about it. They're trying not to like give away too much. But I'm like it's Jalen Ramsey. We know he's gonna be all over the backfield, but like if y'all are gonna like feature him back there as like more of like a prime like DB, like that's fine. Like this guy's a Hall of Fame DB. Like you use him how you need to use him. But so I'm excited to see how he does that, and I'm excited how aggressive they may end up being. Like I think this defense could end up being like almost looking like a classic kind of Steelers defense, right? Like prime Tomlin era, like even some of the older Steelers where like they're gonna be hard hitting and fast.
You seem to have a bit more like just maybe a bit more optimism, and I think especially on the defensive end. And
Yeah,
I'm
I
right
didn't talk
there.
about the offense.
I'm right there with you on the defensive end. Because it's like you still have TJ Watt, like you still have all the pieces that make this team a constant like Steelers foundational team of like we are going to be defense first, similar to the Ravens historically. It's been the Steelers defense, and the offense just is kind of lagging behind, but like always does enough in those moments where it's like they win games. And then you look at the offense this year, and it's like you dragged Aaron Rodgers out of retirement for another year. Like I thought he should have retired last season, and I was just like, all right, like I, one more, like I understand, but to me, and this is just a general Steeler statement, it just feels like they're kind of stuck in like a transitional period of like they're clinging on to what left, what little they have left of like an old and kind of like aging team, and then being like, all right, we'll add a couple pieces in, but we know who we are, and we're going to try to stand by that as long as we can until the wheels fall off. And I think adding Mike McCarthy to me kind of solidified that decision in my mind of like, you're not trying to head in a new direction of starting a new like generation of bringing in a young head coach who can try to build a foundation. It's like, all right, we don't have a lot left. We're trying to capitalize and like take advantage of what little there is to me, like the remaining years of TJ Watt that you have, the taking advantage of even the little bit of prime you have left in this team. And to me, that's tough to evaluate this team because of that. And I look at that and I say like, all right, like a big part of this is the rookies. And Maxi Hanachor, I think is going to be a great tackle for them that can step in. But we've seen tackles their first year, especially after Will Campbell, people are looking and saying, all right, now like to what degree like should we give full confidence in you to go out there and say, all right, protect one of Aaron Rodgers' blind sides at his age, and he's not he's not fresh off an injury, but like it's still in the back of his mind. He's not very mobile, so that's tough. And I will say I did like them adding interior offensive line, like getting Stunker.
Hmm.
He'll be a nice little addition, but even the Drew Aller pick from Penn State is like a future, like potential future Aaron Rodgers like successor is kind of crazy. Like you're looking and saying like that's our guy. Like, and I understand obviously the Pennsylvania connection, it's cool story. I just look at this team and say like the power of friendship, the power of age, and the taking advantage of like what little you have left in this team is tough to look at this and say like I think you're going to go out there and compete with the Steelers. I think you're going to go out there and compete with the Bengals who have this high powered offense, and I think that makes it tough for me to say like this team would be different from last year.
Yeah, because I mean, you hit the nail on the head with like the quarterback stuff. It's like that is the main question. I mean, that's been the main question since Ben Roethlisberger retired. Is like who is the quarterback of this team for now and the future? And they haven't found that guy. I mean, they still have Will Howard and Mason Rudolph on this roster, and you're like you said, they got Drew Aller, but it's like obviously none of those guys were going to be running this team. And it's almost like I mean, you talk about like oh, Rodgers retired. The Steelers probably like begged him. I mean, they were probably like telling him like we need you. Like the Steelers need Aaron Rodgers more than he needs them. Like let's be honest here,
Yes, he's got
which
a
is
Hall of
a
Fame
crazy
career.
position to be in. But I mean, but look, they still have DK Metcalf. They added Michael Pittman, and apparently they're really liking the young guy Bernard as well as like a
Germany
potential kind
Bernard,
of like
yeah.
gadget like speed option. So there's like a lot of good
Yes.
stuff come about him out of camp. And I think you still have good running backs. I mean, they have Jalen Moore and Enrico Daddle, so they could have a very physical run game. The problem I have is like can the O line actually like step up and be what they need to be for protecting Aaron Rodgers and actually creating those lanes for the running backs? And is Aaron Mike McCarthy has been very adamant that Aaron Rodgers' arm is still alive and still very powerful. Is it though? Like, is it? Because it was a lot of short passes last year. Like, and for what I remember from Arthur Smith offenses, which who was running this thing the past couple of years, he loved passing it deep to guys like AJ Brown and whatnot, which is why we're like, okay, DK May. And like, not that there weren't deep passes. Like Aaron Rodgers did make some deep plays like that, but like with guys like Michael Pittman, who you kind of is like more of a possession guy, but also DK Metcalf, like you're expecting them to be like big play guys, like down the
Yes.
field. Let's stretch this out, and then but like the running game can take over where it takes over, and we have Firemouth and whatever else. But the biggest question with the team, you're right, is just it's the quarterback. Like that's what like everything else is like I feel like good enough. But the main question is going to be
Yeah.
like, can Rodgers run this, and can Mike McCarthy like run this team well enough that like it gives confidence to Steelers fans who are desperate? I mean, look, this is like Mike Tomlin was there forever. He only won games. Like they got into the play. Like you know what I'm saying? Like most of
Yeah.
the years he was there, like all but one. So it's just I don't know. Like with the Steelers, I really it's just like the question is Rodgers and McCarthy, and it's just like their relationship ended so bad at the end of the Packers tenure there with McCarthy, but now it's like it's rekindled, and now we're just gotta wait and see like can they capture some magic for literally 1 year? Like all of this is a 1 year basis, and
Yes.
part of that makes me also feel like does McCarthy just kind of like get a pass because we know the Steelers don't like firing coaches? Is this literally just like a McCarthy year being like, okay, like we're gonna do what we can here, we're gonna go for it, but this is also a year for me to establish like myself as like the Steelers coach.
Yeah, I like it's tough because you have to like it's it's also a fresh I don't say fresh start for him. He was like on TV a couple months ago, and now he's like, and I think that transition is always a tough like going back to it now. And you mentioned it like same way like John Harbaugh is like the foundational piece of the Ravens. Like Mike Tomlin is more of a foundational cultural piece than like 10 times that. And I think that like will is a bigger talking point for this team. And I think adding like once again adding Mike McCarthy to me feels like I don't say it's like waving the white flag because it's not that bad. That's our timer. It is. It feels like it's like we are admitting that we are going to be average. We are going to do the best that we can to try to make up for it. And you have your weapons. You mentioned Michael Pittman Jr. I think is a good add. DK Metcalf, but who is going to throw the ball to him? Who is going to support this team from an offensive line standpoint? And this is once again still a very old team. Like when it comes time to later in the season, what is the health of this team going to look like? So lots of questions, but like at the same time, like I don't want to sit here and say like I hate this team. Like there's a lot of potential still here.
Yeah,
I just think putting Mike McCarthy in charge of it is a tough way to be like, go out there and get us over the hump, go out there and do what Mike Tomlin hasn't been able to do for a couple of years, and that's like actually, like push this team past the first couple of rounds of the playoffs,
Yeah,
which is a crazy bar to come in and be like, do you see that guy? Like that's what he just did. So it's tough.
yeah. All right, next team.
All right, the Cincinnati Bengals, down year for them last year, 6-11, but they made some moves, not on the coaching standpoint, which I think to some might be surprising, but at the same time, you
Yeah,
still know the foundational piece of like Zach Taylor is a very talented coach. At the same time, it's like he was given short end of a stick with injuries, and then of course the defense that has always struggled. It's always been what can this defense do because you have such a high powered offense. And what did they do? They went out there and said, all right, like we have a top pick in the draft. We're probably not going. I think you could have found a guy who could come in and make an immediate impact for you, especially where they were. They decided to say, we want an established star that can come in and make an immediate impact. And that happened to be trading for Dexter Lawrence, who instantly can come in and like just fill a big gap in their defensive line. At the same time, you did lose Trey Hendrickson, so it kind of feels like almost a cancel out in a sense. That you're getting a better run stuffer, which I think could definitely help. But then you look and you're like, all right, what does the secondary look like? And then on the other end of this, you're looking at your offensive line as well. It's the battle of the trenches. Those win you games, and the Bengals like have tried their best to improve both of this. They signed Orlando Brown Jr., so that'll help. And then I will say as well, I did like that they added Boye Mafe from the Seahawks. I
I
think
was
he'll be
about
a
to bring
really
him
good
up.
add. I beat you to it. Sometimes I could feel like you're like right there, like that
Well, I
guy
mean,
that
I've
you
been a
really like.
Boye Mafe guy since since he played at Cincinnati in
All right,
college.
I'll
So
pass it over. I'll pass it over to you now. Go ahead and
not the
get
flex, but
get
I
off.
saw him at the Senior Bowl when he was there. But no, because you brought up like they lost Trey Hendrickson, they added Dexter Lawrence, and first of all, Dexter Lawrence is much more of a plus player than Trey Hendrickson has ever been. No, no, I mean that's not. I don't think that's an affront to Trey Hendrickson. It's just that's how fucking good Dexter Lawrence is. And then
Yeah,
Boye Mafe, I don't know if that's a hot take. I think he could have a better season than Trey Hendrickson. Like I genuinely think like as a pass rusher and what you're looking for him like production wise, I think you'll get more out of him, especially because with Trey Hendrickson, I do think you're losing some on like the run defense side. Whereas like the Bengals very clearly with all these defensive additions that they made free agency were like, we need to stop the run, like just for at least like marginally better than we did last year because it was so bad. But that's why you had guys like Dexter Lawrence, Boye Mafe, Jonathan Allen as well on the D line. Like this is a revamped and a lot better looking D line. I mean, ask Joe Burrow because apparently he's even having to spike the ball a few times because Mims and whoever else is getting their ass beat by these guys right now in practice. But then so you add all those guys, and then you also add Brian Cook on the back end as a safety. So you're at least feeling a lot better about your D line and your secondary a little bit. My main worry with their defense is, I mean, there's a lot of worries I have with their defense. Like, how does the rest of the secondary room pan out? Who are their
yeah,
actual starting corners? Because I don't think that's actually solid right now. And then also their linebackers. They've like a lot of like young guys in there right now who are, like they showed some stuff in their like last season, but we don't really know. Like, I don't have a whole lot of confidence in that room on defense. And then yeah, on offense, it's like literally the only question is the offensive line. But I do think because they're changing things up this year. The Bengals are like they're going a lot more
yes,
under center, which is obviously becoming more of a trend within the NFL. A lot more under center. People's tempos I feel like are slowing down more. Like they're actually going into their huddles and like breaking out, and then they're doing all the motion. Like it's a lot of eye candy. Like we talked about the Ravens, we're gonna see a lot more of that with the Bengals. It was funny though, like listening to like I think it was I forget which tight end it was on the Bengals. They were talking about all the changes. They're like, yeah, it's fun. It's a lot of the same plays that we've ran before, but we're just putting a lot more like cloak and dagger about it. We're just trying to like mask everything, like give the defense more to look at before we run these plays that we've kind of already more familiar with. It's just the pre-snap stuff that's changing. And I think a big change in this offense, and I don't know if this is me predicting like it's not a breakout, but like I think Chase Brown could end up having actually like a fantastic season if this is more what they're doing because by all reports, they're moving him around a lot, like a lot, like to the point where it was one play called up by a reporter where it was like Chase Brown started off out wide, lined up next to Jamar Chase, and then they put him in motion, and it ends up being like a jet sweep for him. And they're doing a lot better with like their O line, where they're telling him like, "You got to get these pushes, like you got to get these pushes." So it looks like Chase Brown is going to be featured a lot more in this offense, Which if they can have just an average run defense, just have an average with Dexter Lawrence, I think that's the floor. Like just if he's on the field, like you can count on that. So
Yeah,
you have that average and better run defense that you've had probably in years. And then you add also like if you can get your run game going a little bit more, which obviously opens up things more for Joe Burrow in the passing game with T. Higgins, Jabbar Chase, and Yoshavaz or whoever else they have as their third guy there. This team, I've been comparing them a lot this offseason to the Cowboys. Like I do think they're
ooh,
two very similar teams in different conferences. Where it's like I'm not really worried about the offense. I have more worries about the Bengals offense
yeah,
than I do because of the O line. But like I am very confident that both the Cowboys and the Bengals offenses could be like just put up crazy freaking video game numbers. But then it's just the defensive side where it's like, okay, like I like some of the moves you made, like the additions are good, like the personnel and all that, but like I need to see it first because it's just been so historically bad in recent years that I can't trust that right now. So I'm very curious to see. Like I like the additions they made. Like I said, I think this D line could solve a lot of problems for them, especially in the secondary and their linebackers. But I also do think that teams will watch film on that, and by November, you're probably picking apart their younger linebackers, and you're finding the tomato can
yeah.
in the secondary. So we'll see what happens there. But I don't know, man. Like as long as Joe Burrow can stay healthy, I think this is a playoff team.
That was going to be my next point. Is the health? I think that's a Joe Burrow's health is a big part of this, and I think it's we forgot to mention. I don't forgot to mention, but Lamar Jackson as well for the Ravens. Like the health of him is so crucial to the Ravens, and I think it's the same way that you would look at the Bengals and say like Joe Burrow was so crucial to them because it's crazy that like with the high power offense they have, like Joe Flacco's out there putting up numbers for them, so it's slightly different. But I still think like when you get Joe Burrow, he's a top. I would say top five, but he's a top quarterback in the NFL. I won't go top five because then I have to break it down in my head. But I just look at this and say like he's going to be so crucial to this team, and if he can stay healthy, like it instantly improves like and it pushes their ceiling higher just because of the plays he can make for you. And but it'll always go back to the defensive of side of the ball for them. I will say I did like that they added Cassius Howell in the draft from Texas A&M in the second round. I think could be a really good addition for them. But
I'm
it's
glad you
it's
brought him
really
up.
tough. It's really tough to just say it's really tough to kind of get a sense of like edge defenders and like especially rookie edge defenders and get a sense of like what is a productive season for them. Like we look at last year, and I, actually for the Bengals and Shamar Moore, and it's like all right, like you saw what he was able to do from a damage standpoint, but he wasn't putting up the numbers in college. And then it's like you get there, you had the whole
Wait,
contract situation that was messy, and it's like bro, like
wait,
what
did you
what
say
is even
Shamar
happening?
Moore?
What happened?
You said Shamar Moore.
Shamar Stewart. I said Shamar Moore. Oh, it's
I was like,
it's
I
been
didn't
a
really
long
put.
day. Yeah, Shamar Moore, Jalen Hurts' father is out there, rushing the rushing the quarterback.
I know the Bengals been
Shamar
desperate.
Stewart, yeah, I mean at this point, um, Shamar Stewart, the whole like stuff even before the season started of the contract talk was crazy, and then to not put up the numbers that you were expecting from him after that was even crazier. So I just look at this and say like it to me it'll always be the defense and how they can step up.
Yeah, I'm excited to
That's
see
our
it,
timer.
man. Okay, but hey,
Perfect.
we'll see. We'll see what happens with them. Right, they're always pretty boomer bust. But all right, next team, last team, the Browns. Yeah,
I
yeah.
like it's I think the side just naturally just tells a lot about everything, and I think we could probably just end it there. But we have to actually talk about them. The Browns finished 5-12 last year,
Which
and
is pretty impressive.
I all things considered, yes, all things considered, um, last year was such a weird year of everything, and then they hit the reset button, which I will credit them for. Like, should have been a while ago. I'm glad you're at least taking a step to be like, we are like trying to clear. Like they literally cleaned house. Todd Monken is their new coach. He was former offensive coordinator for Baltimore. Travis Switzer is new offensive coordinator. He was the former run game coordinator for Baltimore. Mike Rutenberg is the new D coordinator, and he was the pass game coordinator for Atlanta. And literally, like when I looked at their staff, like and you can see the transactions on ESPN, it's like this person's brought in a special teams coach, this person's brought in as the pass game coordinator, this person's brought in as the like they changed everything, and I think it was definitely necessary. And then you look at the draft, and it's like they just blitzed the draft, and I think to me came away, which is surprising to say for the Browns, like came away as almost winners in a sense, or one of the winners, I think, in my opinion, where you got Spencer Fano, you got two great receivers, in Denzel Boston and Casey Concepcion, and like Emmanuel McNeil Warren, I think was probably the steal of the draft with how he fell. Um, and then
But
you, yes, and then here's the but, like, and I think the biggest but of all that is like you don't have Miles Garrett anymore. And I will say though, like it at some point this was inevitable. Like I think you knew that like with all the even last year where there was like the oh I want to go compete, I want to go compete. They send him a buttload of money and it's like I'm quiet. But you always I think everyone in the back of mind, at least in my opinion, was just like this isn't going to be sustainable. Like
we
Miles
talked about
Garrett
it
is
all
too
year.
dominant. Yeah, Miles
It was
Garrett
like
is
you
too
can't
dominant
be
of a
upset on
player.
the sideline after you were like, "Oh, okay, I got the money, I'm good." No, there's no more complaining after that.
Yeah. And the fact that they were able to get a younger player who can still be like I don't say Justice Dominant because Miles Garrett is Miles Garrett, but
Yeah.
a player that can at least like do 3/4 of what Miles Garrett can do in Jared Verse and is still significantly younger. You have some because the Rams don't care about picks. You have some picks like it. The offseason that they had put them in a direction to move positively and in the correct direction where you're like, dang, like if they had a competent front office, this would be great. And then you realize who their front office is, and you say, "Oh, this is still the Cleveland Browns." Like as much as they just done, like as much faces I had in them, like leading up to everything. When we started getting closer to training camp, and I was starting to hear like Deshaun Watson is like the guy that's like they're looking at as their starting quarterback. I was like, "There's the Browns I know and love." Like, or not, I don't say love. There's the Browns I know. Um, and I think that to me, like, they had a phenomenal offseason where they cleared house. They brought in a bunch of new talent. They still have some great talent in their building, like Harold Fannin Jr., like Carson Schlesinger was the best, one of the best, probably second best player behind Miles Garrett on their entire defense. But they constantly put themselves in these positions where it's like your your quarterback competition is this constant debate because it's like people are hating Shador Sanders for all the every reason under the sun besides what he's doing on the field for you. Dylan Gabriel is somehow constantly we all know he's not as good as Shador Sanders, but the Browns seem to still be holding out some hope for him. And then all the meanwhile, it's like Deshaun Watson, like they're still so adamant on like when he's healthy, he is our guy. Like he's the guy that we want to run this organization. And that to me is like insane because he even when he was like he finally got clear with all legal trouble and he stepped on the field for you before he got hurt, he wasn't doing enough for you to be like that is our guy that we want to run out there for 16 weeks and go out there and win us games. And I think when you consider the trajectory and all this youth and all the talent that they're bringing in, it would be the same case to have a to select and even if you guys clearly aren't willing to commit to Shador, getting like having the competition be between your two younger quarterbacks to set your face of your franchise. And I know we're both kind of a bit higher on Shador Sanders than most people. I like he did not have a bad season, all things considered. It wasn't a great season.
Yeah.
And I think that is a tough, but when you consider the position that he was put in with the Browns and them not even wanting to draft him and the constant, like all the chaos that led up to this, where it's like, oh, I don't want to pick him and all that craziness for him to go out there and to play the way that he did and constantly improve week to week, I think says something about him and says something about what you want to get from him. I'm not saying you should trot him out there week one and declare him your franchise guy, but I think they should give him a fairer shot of like actually evaluating him and to some degree even Dylan Gabriel, as much as I don't like to see him out there in the field. Like to
No.
me, trotting Deshaun Watson out there, like just because he's a veteran guy and you're still clinging on to what he was able to do in Houston 4 years ago, it doesn't push this franchise any further in the positive direction. And I think it's constantly why we're in this position where we're talking about the Browns as having so much potential, having the talent on this team, but then constantly being failed by being the Browns.
Yeah, I mean, it literally just it's all about like if I were to like look at their depth chart, when I did look at their depth chart, I was like, okay, like if I were to just like take away the quarterback room, I would actually be like, hey, this is kind of a dope team. Like you mentioned, they have a lot of really good young players. Like and to their credit, which I need to make sure that everyone knows I don't ever give the Browns credit. Like it's so rare for me to give them credit for doing something well, but they have drafted fairly well the past couple of years, especially where it's like you're right. They got Schlesinger, right? That Fannin, Bond, Denzel Boston is apparently like their number one guy, even though he wasn't even the first receiver they took. Conception, you got Jerry Judy. Well, I
Yeah.
mean, well, they didn't draft him, but you know what I'm saying? Like they have all these guys. They
Well,
got Mason
Jerry
Graham.
Judy.
Well, yeah, Jerry.
The
I'm
way
like, what? Because I was like, I was remembering he was there too. I was like, well, okay, but like you have
Steve Smith was right.
three young receivers, right? In Bond, Conception, and Boston, who you're like, okay, like we can build around these guys and work with them going forward. Fannin, right? He can be. I think he could end up being like a star tight end in this league. Quinshon Judkins, like a really good running back, and they have a couple other ones in that room as well. And then on the defensive side, yeah, you got Mason Graham. You just traded for Jared Verse, Schlesinger. Like you have all these young players, Denzel Ward.
Denzel,
Like
yeah, Denzel Ward.
it's like you have all these really good young players that are like potentially like star guys. Some of them are star guys in the league already. And then it's just like, okay, but is this offense even going to work because of who's throwing the ball? Because Deshaun Watson has been, I mean, since his last season with the Texans, like ever since he came over to the Browns, he's been nothing positive, literally nothing positive on or off the field. It has been a complete disaster since they traded for him, which trading for him in the first place was a disaster. And then now he's on that final year of the contract. So part of me is like, okay, you probably just like, yeah, just give him the job. Let him start out there. I think the best thing for the Browns to do is roll Deshaun Watson out there, let him screw up, and then get eggs thrown at him, and then put Shador Sanders out there and to be like, look, this is the best we can do this year. Because the quarterback of the future is probably not on this roster right now. Like, being completely honest. Like, I like Shador Sanders. I think he can be serviceable, but I don't know if he can be your franchise guy going forward. And I don't think the Browns do either. So I think this year for them literally is like, hey, we got Myles Garrett off the books. We're gonna get we're a very young team at the moment, but we don't have a quarterback that we particularly have to or need to build around at the moment. So eventually, when they do get that guy who they can bring on their rookie contract, they can pay all of these young guys that they've drafted very well, and then they'll have that rookie or free agent quarterback that they can bring in for other money, and then this team could maybe take off. But like this year, currently, right now, with their current ownership and the quarterbacks that they have in that room, I have zero confidence in the Browns with being anything good, and they'll probably finish last in this division.
All right, our time is up for that. And before I they're the Browns, and
Yeah,
I think I've said enough. But speaking of last in this division, um, I have my final standing predictions for the AFC North.
let me hear it.
And okay, so I'll list them off. Uh, Ravens number one, Bengals two, Steelers three, and then of course bringing up the rear, the Browns. And you know what's crazy? I seriously in my heart considered swapping the Browns and the Steelers
Dude.
because
Yes,
and I was like the talent they have. I was like if Deshaun Watson, Shador Sanders is serviceable out there, like if even if like what happens where it's like they throw Watson out there for the first 3 weeks, it doesn't work. Shador comes in and is average. This team like they're very positive. Yes, they're young, but like the talent and everything they have is it's there. But at the end of the day, I still think like the experience that the Steelers have like pushes them up in my opinion. Where it's like I don't think they're gonna drop to the bottom of the division just because they lose Mike Tomlin and he was the sole piece holding them back from like being a competent team. Like they still have pieces. Now next year, I think we'll have a different discussion. But for now, I got Ravens, Bengals, Steelers, Browns.
I'm right there with you, and it's with the Steelers and Browns conversation. It really is just like it's like you said. If a year or two from now, yeah, like when these players have more time under their belt and more experience, then I'm going to be like, yeah, I trust these guys a lot more to be a successful team day in and day out, week to week. The Steelers, like they have a lot of good talent on them, but most of it is like older, and like sometimes you can
Yes.
see that as a bad thing, but like their talent and like they have more playoff experience. You know what I'm saying? Like so, it's there's more of a trust factor with the Steelers players, not as much the coaches, but like it's just I mean on the defensive side, I love Patrick Graham, but yeah, it's just so I'm exactly the same with you. Ravens, Bengals, Steelers, Browns. I just think that's a go, and I think both Lamar and Joe Burrow could be if they stay healthy, they could both be competing for MVP.
Yeah, it'll be tough. But we're going to move over to the NFC North now. Let me get the timer queued up. Um, Starting with the Bears, 11-6. The only thing they did was, since they lost their offensive coordinator, they promoted Press Taylor, who was their former pass game coordinator. And to be honest, they don't really need to do much, in my opinion. After that, like it was like, all right, like you saw how good this team was, um,
I mean, they
and
sent
you
off
saw.
DJ Moore.
Yes. But at the same time, to me, that like that opens up a better potential for Roma Dunze stepping into a role of being that guy for you. Like I don't want to say they had a crowded receiver room, because I know you're also a
Hmm.
Luther Burden guy.
Oh,
Um,
trust me, I was glad you didn't just bring him up because like he's saving him for me because he knows I'm a big Luther Burden guy.
I had I'll let you clear the floor, but to me, I think getting DJ Moore out of there, like, and getting value for him was the best thing they could do to open up the potential of these two young guys. And I think Romo Dunze to me like could be a top receiver for them easily. And so I look at that and say like with Ben Johnson and the way the offense was moving last year and the way Caleb Williams has improved, and he's still young, like this is still a very young team. Like there's two ends of the young spectrum, and we just talked about the other one in the Browns. And then you look at the Bears, and it's like they were a bit, I would say, kind of came out a bit stronger than what people were expecting them. I think you would have said like they'd be where they were last year, this year. And I think the fact that they were able to do that in Ben Johnson's first year says a lot. And I think that the fact that they can improve on that is going to be really good for them. And I look around a division, and I'm like, I don't really see anyone stepping to them right now. And so I think the addition as well of rookie Dylan Thieneman, like I talked about Emmanuel McNeil Warren being like a really big steal, and for him to drop like as far as he did, like just based off of value, he is the best like steal in my opinion. At the same time, Dylan Thieneman, I think as well, like I like naturally like when you talk about white safeties, everyone's first reaction is going to be, oh, it's Harrison Smith, and I will
Or
say
Reed
like he doesn't.
Blankenship, Super Bowl winning Reed Blankenship. I don't
Yeah,
see
okay,
Harrison Smith with any
okay.
rings.
Oh, okay. Don't do that. Like, that's the hitman.
No,
Um,
that was sorry. It's my namesake, so I
yeah.
yeah.
So I just look at this and say like he doesn't bring the same like, oh, like if you're a defenseless receiver, I'm gonna lay you out. But he brings a more like ball hawk type of like, I'm going to be everywhere in the secondary type of player, which I think really fits into what we saw from the Bears, where it's like
That's what they want to do.
they love that type of secondary. And that was kind of my concern with the pieces that they lost, and losing Kevin Byard, who was that kind of roam and be the ball hawks, that type of safety role. And the fact that you can get a rookie who's a bit older who can come in and instantly make that impact for you is phenomenal. And what we were seeing as well, the reports and everything that we're saying, Kobe Bryant was great for them. Like that first couple of weeks of training camp, he'll be out 2 months now with a knee injury, so kind
It
of tough
sucks,
to
man. It really
yeah
he was
to
so good for the
evaluate that.
Seahawks last year too.
Yeah. I will say I did like their other two rookie additions of Malik Muhammad, DB from Texas, and then
Mhm.
Keyshawn Elliott from like Arizona State. I think they both can fit into this as well, and improve their defense, because that would be the one aspect of this where I say like that to me might hold them back. Is I think the offense can only get better. Caleb Williams another year, Ben Johnson another year, just getting his feet wet, like, and getting comfortable as a head coach, and everything offensively taking a step forward. I just say, can the defense keep up with that? Can the defense continue to take that next step? Like, I don't think we're going to see them like where it's like a historic like Bengals type of situation where it's like the offense is doing everything it can and the defense is lagging behind. They're too like the defense is still talented. I just look at this and say like, is it going to be enough to keep the Bears like when their offense is struggling and they're going against a really tough defense? Can their defense match the energy and go bar for bar with them? Because I think the Bears offense like 8 times out of 10 will not be the issue.
Yeah. All right. So actually, I think we might push back a little bit on this one, like between you and me, because
Ooh.
I am not as high on their defense. I think their defense. Now, let me start it
I'm the
with
same, but
this.
I said that I'm not high on the defense.
Oh,
The
okay. Well,
offense
you
is
were
what I.
okay. Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm saying like, all right, it's mainly the turnover thing that I'm worried about because I
Okay.
mean they were. I'm not gonna say they target turnovers. Like Al Harris is one of the best secondary coaches. If you could argue he's the best defensive backs coach in the NFL. Like look at what he did with the Cowboys. Look at what he's done with the Bears. Like starting last year with Dennis Allen there. Like he like when you listen to him talk about the secondary, he coaches turnovers. Like he wants to go after that. He had a quote where he said something like people see turnovers as like lucky, basically. I'm paraphrasing here, but like he was saying, like, no, I think you can target and you can go after turnovers, which is what he preaches. And so far from what we've seen from him in his track history, like he's kind of right. Like he's put his theory to practice and it's came through. But can you continue to have that luck another year? And they had all those injuries last year in their secondary when it was like Jalen Johnson was out for a while, Kyler Gordon. But but if they get those guys back and they can stay healthy this year, then yeah, I do think it is possible for them to continue to be like a very good, like high turnover defense. They can be productive in that way. My worry is if the turnovers go down, and to be honest, I can say this about both sides of the ball with the Bears, right? The turnovers they were
Yeah.
very like it was very high in both of them, right? Can you get the turnovers down on offense, because especially towards the end of the season Caleb Williams was throwing some egregious turnovers, like really really bad ones. And then but the defense kept getting like Nation Wright was like a freaking like revelation for them, man. Like he was getting turnover after turnover. So can those two things, like can you get the turnovers down on offense and can you maintain the turnovers on defense, are two big things I'm worried about. And the explosives part of it too, like there was a lot of heroics this team had to do
Yeah.
in the fourth quarter of a lot of games last year. Um it was it was scary at times. I mean, think about like the 49ers game, both Packers games, like they had to make some crazy comebacks last year. So can they keep that up, or can they just be a more consistent team throughout the entirety of the game and not have to rely on heroics at the end? I do think they're going to be more run heavy here. They talk about Ben Johnson, the sicko that he is, spent a week watching Miami's like run game from last year, I think it was, and it was like, dude, like you got to relax. But uh, I think their offense is going to evolve. Like year two with him and Caleb Williams, I do think we're going to see improvements from both of them. I think we're going to see them try more things and hunt for those explosives more, and just try to be more consistent offense. I agree with you there, but I don't know. I do think there was also a lot of like high variance, sort of like I'm not going to call it luck, but like high variance stuff that was happening with them on both sides of the ball, where it's like that could end up like flipping them to being like, okay, what you said they had 11 wins last year. Like a lot of those
Yeah.
could be flipped where you're like, okay, now they're like a 9-win team, and then you like in that division, you don't know how well that will do for you, or even in the NFC. So like I am very high on like I think the Bears have like a very high ceiling, but I also think their floor is lower than people want to like realize.
Yeah. I think that's fair. And I think a big part of that, like you mentioned the luck aspect, and I think like I agree with you, like completely. Like there
And
was
part
no
of that is
pushback
injury
with that.
luck, by the way.
How what happened?
And part of that is injury luck.
Yes. Um I like everything on paper, I think this team is heading in the right direction. At the same time, like there there is that potential where it's like they just kind of stagnate a little bit before taking a better leap next year, where it's like, all right, you kind of captured lightning in a bottle your first season, Ben Johnson, like then you hit the speed bumps, and then it's like, all right, like that next season you're fully off and flying because Caleb Williams is fully like the MVP, like what he was promised, Heisman, level player. Kyle Monunga is running through people again. Like at this, there has the potential for that. I agree with you in the sense that I like I I think they I think 11-6 is like their ceiling again. I don't think we will see this team like get more than 11 wins. But even then, I'd be like 10. I'd be like that's a really good season for them. I think that's fair because like you said, and this is my final thing. Like a lot of those could go one way or another. Where it's like you don't have a Caleb Williams Iceman throw, and all of a sudden you've lost 2 games, and it's like it those things stack up.
Yeah, and that's the variance that you have. Like that's what I'm looking for with Caleb Williams. Like I think he's an extremely talented quarterback, and I know we're over the time. I'll make this quick. But like think about like the 49ers game where it's like, what if he didn't throw that interception right there in the red zone,
Yeah.
right? You know what I'm saying? Like there was so many games where it was like the heroics happened, but also they didn't happen. So it's like this team is so high variance. It makes it exciting to watch, honestly.
Yeah.
But all
All
right,
right.
next team.
Moving on. The Green Bay Packers, who I very mixed thoughts about because they were 9-7-1 last year. That one at one time because Jerry Jones refused to lose to Micah Parsons, and you know, I funniest game of all time because it was like you clearly knew like Jerry was like, I'm not letting Micah disrupt this game. I don't care if we lose this. I'm not letting Micah get the final win. And I feel like a direct order from above. But coaching wise, they lost Jeff Halfley, who became the Dolphins head coach. And who did they decide to bring in as their new defensive coordinator? It was former Cardinals head coach and former Eagles defensive coordinator. Jonathan, who drove here today, Gannon. Um,
Pew pew pew.
that was such a. I like when I was taking notes. I was like, I forgot like that was his first like his first speech as a head coach where he's like, "Who drove here today?" Like what was that? What was that like? I get right. Like sometimes it's awkward. That first like we had Liam Cohen doing the Duval thing, but like
They're
I,
next to
I
the
still
guy.
look at that. I like. I still would rather have an awkward Duval like chant than like have that awkward like leaked video of him talking to the players. But he is a new defensive coordinator, and I I was if you would have told me about this team like last year and when we had talks about them, I was like, this team's defense is ferocious. Like they are heading in the right direction. Like they're going to be scary. And now I kind of look at this team and I'm like, like it just doesn't look as good now. And I think a lot of that is it's we talked about both of these divisions. Health is a crucial part, and I think that the Packers know more than anybody, especially on the defensive end, where it's like Micah Parsons, like you traded for him as a star, like to come in and is one of the best pass rushers in the league. You already knew getting him that he was going to be not 100%, and that's continued to be the case. Is now we're getting to the point where they're like, oh, like he might miss some time to start the season, and it's like that doesn't bode quite well. Where you're like, oh, we feel like we have guys that can step up and make a big impact while he's recovering, and we don't want to rush that recovery. That to me doesn't just doesn't bode well to begin. And then you consider how much of the defense is Micah Parsons. Like, yes, they still have pieces all around that field. I still like even like losing Rashawn Gary. Like I look at this and say like this Packers team just doesn't feel as like ferocious on the defensive end as they did last year to me. Like adding Javon Hargrave and being like, yes, like hey, you can hopefully capture that like Javon Hargrave that the Eagles had, and it's like he's too old to try to like to do this now, and it's tough. And then you look at the offensive end, and it's like Tucker Craft is coming back off an injury. I think he can step into a role of being one of the best Titans in the league. Like he'll go back to
Yeah.
that. But Jordan Love has always been a topic of discussion. And then the receiver room, like you lose Dontavian Wicks, and then you're like, all right, Christian Watson is your guy. You just paid him all that money. He has to be that guy for you now. And then it's like, all right, we drafted Matthew Golden last year. He didn't do anything like for you where it's like he was significant enough. So you're like, all right, he's going to be our number two option opposed to Christian like on the other side of Christian Watson, who's had injury issues as it is. Like it's a tough situation to look at this and say like they will like just be better than they were last year. Like, and I don't think that's the case with what they have.
Yeah, they're asking a lot of Lucas Van Ness this year, like a lot. Well,
Yes.
before Micah Parsons comes back, and they believe in him, right? They paid him, they like him, but I do think it feels so weird because it's like I think we both have certain feelings about Jonathan Gannon, but like I do have to give him credit, like as a coordinator, as a defensive coordinator, like he does do I think he is a good coordinator. And I think what will help the Packers with Gannon coming over is that while he's with the Cardinals, he obviously didn't have a whole lot to work with, right? You had Buda Baker, Josh Sweat last year, and then it was like, I don't know, like what else they really had that could like make a whole. I mean, Thompson was there too, Jalen Thompson, but like there wasn't a lot for them to work with there. But so that because of that, him and the rest of the defensive staff there, like they got really creative with what they were doing on the defensive side
Yeah.
of the ball with like odd fronts where they're placing Buda Baker, like stuff like that. And I do think he can bring that over to the Packers and have just better personnel to work with. And like especially in the weeks that Micah Parsons isn't playing, which is looking like probably like the first 6 weeks. I almost said it. And then so like before he comes back, you're gonna have to get creative with it, right? You're gonna have to help protect your D line, and you're probably gonna be moving Javon Bullard around a lot to get him to positions, kind of like how I think you can almost listen. Buda Baker is a highly underrated and highly skilled safety, so I'm not gonna say Bullard can do everything that Buda Baker did for them with the Cardinals, but like I do think he can do similar stuff. So yeah, the defense is a little worrisome, but I do think they can. I do think Jonathan Gannon has the capability to make it work until Micah Parsons comes back, and then when Micah Parsons comes back, we'll see what the actual like ceiling for this defense is. But I don't know. I for some reason actually like my gut feeling with this talking about that earlier is like I'm somewhat more worried about the offense with this team because the O line, the injury stuff there too. I think about Zach Tom, like he was coming off injuries and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then Christian Watson was injured a lot last year. This wasn't injury stuff, but like Matthew Golden, like he didn't catch a touchdown until the playoffs, and he didn't even have like 400 yards throughout the season, which was like he was like your guy. That was supposed to be what it was. And the reports are that like a lot of the reason why like guys like Dobbs and like Wicks are gone now is because like the receiver room was overcrowded, and they're like I think LaFleur said something like, like we would have a big play, and then like I know I would my next play call I would already be getting in. It would be a play call that would be specifically for Matthew Golden, but then he would get pulled out, and I don't know who I'm calling playing for is at that point because they keep rotating all these receivers in. So they're like this year they're really focused on more of like trying to figure out like how can we be more organized with this and make sure that like who's on the field is who's supposed to be on the field. So like it just feels like they're working through a lot more stuff and just like the uncertainty of Jordan Love and it. He's always seems to have health issues going on and the inconsistency. The old line can be inconsistent and injured as well. The receivers, like, while I like the room and they have a lot of good pieces there, I just don't know if there's like one guy who you're like, besides the speed aspect that a lot of these guys have, who are you really saying out there like, okay, go beat someone one on one without just relying on speed? Like, who's a guy? Who is your technician on the team? I think it could be Jaden Reed at times, but like, is he really like besides the speed aspect of a lot of these receivers, it's not something where I'm like, okay, you really got to watch out for this here. It's
Yes.
I don't know. LaFleur's I'm not gonna say he's on the hot seat, but this is a crucial year for him and Jordan Love to like really kind of like hone in on this offense and make it more consistent and productive.
The final thing I'll add, at least, and especially it's going back to the offense, is like Josh Jacobs has been,
Okay,
a great running back for them, and I like this is it's just crazy to say like and I think we constantly have a discussion with all running backs, but it's like where does it end? And I think like that to me is like my question when I think of Josh Jacobs is like to what point can you continue to put loads and loads of work on him and say like it is going to be substantial to carry this run game and this is going to be the way that we can run our offense and not eventually like him struggle with these carries or get hurt worse like so I that is another thing that I look at this and I'm just a bit concerned about.
I will say final note for the Josh Jacobs thing is, are we even sure he's going to play the full season? Because he was arrested in May for 5 charges of was it domestic abuse where it was, and then he was released pretty immediately, and the teams supported him and all that stuff. But like that hasn't exactly gone away. So like, could that come back and haunt them later in the season too? And then that's where you're relying on like was it Marshawn Lloyd to come in and like hopefully be that guy that you drafted him to be 2 years ago, but he's also been extremely injured, and he's barely even been able to play his first couple of years. So yeah, that's also an area of concern.
All right. The next team, we're pretty good. This timer idea was I think a
Yeah,
pretty good move on my
we
part.
would still be on the Ravens.
Yeah. All right. Next up, the Detroit Lions. A lot of optimism. Here, I would say they had a down year, 9-8 last year. And I think a lot of that, like, okay, it's crazy that all of these teams like were like, oh, the injuries really just massacred them. I like I think the Lions had it worse of any of the teams we talked about, and especially when you think about that defense, like they had it, and he stepped up. Temple legend Rocky Sin was out there like crucial for
Still
them
there?
as a DB, and so like he put Temple on the map, and I think like he would have got that position if like it wasn't every time like and I kept saying the memes, and I still see them. Like it's a Chris Day in October, and you hear like the medical, like I forgot, like or we're gonna go to commercial break, and it's like the medical song, and it's just a Lions like DB like down on the field. And
Yeah,
that's how it felt like every time, where it's like, wow,
it's like the past
man,
2 years has been like that for them.
again, like so. But at the same time, you look at a defensive coordinator like they have, and the way he's been going on out there, and it's like it doesn't matter who it is, like they are lying, and it's a Dan Campbell influence where it's like you look at the guys that he hires and like they're all sickos in one way or another. You think about like how Ben Johnson is now, and then you think about like all of it, like they are heading in a direction where it's like they're going to be the Lions, and you know what you're going to expect. So I say like this team isn't going to struggle as much as they did last year. I think this team will be significantly better, and it's solely just because like they didn't do much but to say we're running it back and just trying to get healthier and trying to put ourselves in a better position where we don't have to we don't have to rely on just like whoever steps like next man up. Like let's get healthy, let's figure things out, and I like that. Like I would say like naturally the one concern is that Jared Goff is getting up there more and more, and you're like, all right, at what point does it like you need to start thinking about the future? Teddy Bridgewater isn't he's
Well, hold
a
on.
sustainable backup. I
Let me.
love Teddy Bridgewater. You're not going out there and being like
What's
if
gonna happen to Jared Goff? What do you mean? Like, because are we looking at it like it's like the Peyton Manning thing? The only thing that can go for Jared Goff is his mind or his arm. But it's not like we're sitting there thinking like Lamar Jackson was like, well, how much longer can he run like this? It's
yeah,
Jared
that's
Goff.
fair.
Like
I
he
just
just needs a clean pocket.
that but at times like if
But
this offensive line is hurt, like it becomes an issue. So I like on the rookie standpoint, I really like that they added Tate Relich. I think he'll be I'm tripping.
Blake Miller.
Ignore me. Yes, I think Blake Miller will be a really good ad for them. I like it's tough because we at the value that they got him, I think there was a lot of talk of like they should have went in a different direction. I like the Blake Miller pick for what they're trying to do now. I know some people at WHP Sports would disagree with me, but to me, it's like Dan Campbell is so creative as your offensive guy. Like he is still going to put your players in the best position possible. And Jameer Gibbs just got that crazy extension. Amon Ross still there. Jameson Williams is still that deep third guy. Isaac Tesla had great moments for you as well. Like the receiving core, the running backs, and even adding Isaiah Pacheco as a nice like backup option. Like obviously
Sam Laporta.
You lose your very near and dear to your heart Sonic and Knuckles, but you get somebody who probably runs just as aggressively, just with a little less pop, and Isaiah Pacheco. So I really like that move, and it's just health. How healthy can this team be? And I that will always be like the cap of like the question of like what holds this team back from being a Super Bowl contender. But I can't look at this team in good faith and say like if they're healthy, everything is clicking like we know it can, that this team won't be talented and won't be in a position to be a favorite.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of opposite with me with them, like it was with the Packers, where like I'm pretty confident in the Lions offense. Like I
Yeah.
know like they just brought in Drew Petzing and like they had to like get rid of Morton, who they had for the 1 year last year, but like I think Petzing will come in and they'll have a more consistent and simpler. And I don't know about simpler, but like I do think the offense will be fine. Like you said, especially because of all the personnel that they have. Like Jared Goff, as long as you keep him up, like you got Panay Sewell going to the left side, and I think Blake Miller, whoever wins that right side, like I think it'll be fine. The interior, I'm a little like I don't know what's going on with the center position, but I think they'll figure it out. The Pacheco, like is he the new Knuckles? We'll see. Like as long as you have Jameer Gibbs, like I think you're fine. Like he's an outstanding running back who's going to be like a major part of the offense again, obviously. But yeah, it's just the defensive side, especially now that Terrion Arnold's gone. Who's going to be playing on the opposite side of DJ Reed? We don't know who
Well,
exactly their second. Well, yeah, we don't know who the opposite, who's going to be opposite of DJ Reed.
yeah.
I do like their nickel room. Like I kind of did actually want to shout them out. Like I'm a big Roger McCreary fan, and I like Ennis Rakestraw. Like I liked him coming out of college. So like I do like their nickel room. It's just I don't know who their second outside corner is right now. If you look at the depth chart, I think it's Abney is slated to be there, which I don't. That's definitely not solid, but we'll see what
Yeah,
happens there. And then
it's a tough position to put a rookie in, but I think this will always be my point with them is that like we saw what they were able to do with their worst, but they were constantly in the position that they were competing in games with whoever it was there just because of the coaching staff. And I think that to me is always the point that I go to if it's like, all right, you lose, like you have to put a rookie out there and keep that me. And you're like, all right, go out there and make plays for us. Like I trust that this Lions coaching staff will put them in the best positions to actually do that.
yeah, I still think my biggest thing with them though is their D line. Like, does Aiden Hutchinson actually have enough help? Like, I like Liam McNeil, but like besides that, like, am I like okay, yeah, DJ Wano, I'm like cool. Like, I don't know. Like, they're very high in the 6th round rookie they got last year. Hassanein, I think that's how you say his name. Ahmed Hassanein. He coming out of camp, like I didn't expect this like a 6th round rookie from last year to be a guy that was getting talked about a lot this year of someone who they're like finally like okay like he's catching up to the game because I read about him. I guess he started playing football at 15 after moving to America from Cairo.
I had to see his face, but
Yeah,
I see it now.
yeah. But so yeah, they're it seems like they're very high on him. But like, am I like, is he going to be that guy that's going to come in and help relieve Aiden? Like, you know what I'm saying? So it's like
Yeah.
the D line. I'm like, it still feels like it's too reliant on Aiden Hutchinson as good as he is. But I just they have a couple. They have 2 or 3 holes in the defense. I'm like, I don't know if they're going to be able to get this going the way they want to. But I mean,
All
like,
right.
plus the safety room. I mean, you still have Brian Branch, who they're hoping he can come back by the end of the first month of the season. Kirby Joseph, still not sure what the timeline is there. But I mean, hey, they got Avonte Maddox there, so I don't know, and Chuck Clark, who like when he was healthy years ago before like suffering those like really bad injuries when he was with the Jets and the Ravens. Like I have liked him before in the past, but like that they need Brian Branch to get back like ASAP, ASAP.
Yeah.
All right.
All
Anything else
right.
with the Lions?
No, that's not for me. We have 40 seconds left, so I'm glad to for once be like, hey, we stopped in just
Well, I
enough
can
time.
ruin that real quick by saying like shout out Jake Bates for being one of the best kickers in the league, like truly a weapon. Like I think we have to talk about more with the NFL, with especially with your starting position now with the new kickoff rules. Kickers are crazy. Like you basically have to get a first down, and kickers like Jake Bates can be like, okay, I got us like automatic points. Like that. That
We'll definitely be talking about that more as we get to the NFC East next week
yeah.
and what that looks like, both ways, good and bad. But our final team, and I like that we end with them. It's the Minnesota Vikings, and we talked about the Browns and the AFC North, and I don't want to sit there and say like they're as bad as the Browns. Like this is a team that finished 9-8, and you think about the fact that they had Carson Wentz out there for 5 weeks,
Who I
and
forgot he was on the team, by the way. I was looking at, I was like, oh yeah, the quarterback competition. I was like, wait, Carson Wentz is still there? I was like, I forgot about
Carson Wentz, you had 9. Max Brosmer started a couple games for you, and
the 9. Jesus.
it's a tough. They were in a tough situation, and I think because of that, like despite all the craziness and the fact that Justin Jefferson was fed up with not getting targets and all of it, like the fact that this team was 9-8, like it this like
Shout out
okay,
Brian Flores.
yes, shout out Brian Flores. Like at the same time, to me, this felt like with the Lions, it was like, oh, this is great like coaching. They're making the most of what they got. Like it somehow felt like the Vikings, like it was just like their defense is doing everything they can, and then the offense is just like like
I like what you're saying
just
because
scraped
I was
by the
thinking about
skin
this
of their
earlier
teeth.
too. It's like it felt like the Vikings were just like getting away with it. Like it
Yes,
felt
like
almost like dirty. It was like how do they keep getting away with this? Like there's
yes,
no way they're actually turning out some wins still.
it was like the Lions were like giving it their all, and it was like
Mm-hmm.
they like it was a feel good win. And you're like, yeah, like that's so good. And then it's like the Vikings win, and like this is the nerd in me, but it's like in WWE, there's like the roll up pin where it's like you just like grab like you cheat to like win. And it's like you roll up and grab the tight so that their shoulders are down and the ref didn't see it. Like that's what it felt like every time I was watching the Vikings, where it's like, oh, like that they won, like that's insane. And then you like boo them, and it's like it's not even like fun because it's like that genuinely like wasn't good, and it's nothing that can be done about it. And speaking of nothing good that can be done about it, the quarterback room, you mentioned it, like they okay, I will say this. I am very high on Kyler Murray. I have been since he entered the league, and like he's my short king that I would defend year after year and say like I still believe that
Him
there's
and Bryce
something
Young.
good there. Um, and I like I like the Cardinals. It was a tough position that he was in. It had all the highs and then a lot of lows recently, but I genuinely think like him going to the Vikings is a good fresh start to put him in a positive direction. It sucks that that direction has to be against somebody who like the Vikings have selected so early on and have so much faith in that it's like it's going to be tough for them to be like we can't just give up on JJ McCarthy.
See,
Like
I don't
you
think they have
can't
any
just
faith in him.
what happened?
I don't think they have any faith in JJ McCarthy. Otherwise, why would you bring Kyler over?
But okay, but to me, it's like it's the whole like quarterback competition. Like, oh, we bring someone in to like boost the spirits and like let's see it. Like, let's see if it activates. I'd say activates anything. And we see the real 9 come out. Like it,
God.
like, but,
Jesus.
but like I like I it's tough because I think at the end of the day the mindset will always be like we spent a first round pick, not just a first round pick, but a high first round pick on this guy. Like you have to like I don't say you have to hit on it, but like it there is a bit more pressure to be like we want to be right about this. And I think because of that, like it's a tough situation for Kyler Murray to step into, but at the same time, like it should be a pretty easy job for him to win. It's JJ McCarthy. Like I look at this and say, like, you know what Kyler Murray is going to give you. Like he's going to the arm talent is there, the movement is still there to me. Like he's going to get the ball to Justin Jefferson, he's going to get the ball to Jordan Addison. Like you bring in Jawan Jennings as well. Like those are good. That's a good receiving core for you. And
That it
Jawan
might
Jennings
be
is
one of the best receiver trios in the NFL. Like definitely one of the better ones.
yes, and it's because of that. I look at this and say like that like alone like if you like it's simple who can get the ball to them like obviously the offensive line like solid like no there's no big like things you're looking at saying like that's a big issue we need to fill this hole like they are in an ideal situation where it's like go out there and throw the ball to your targets and that includes TJ Hawkinson as well like this
Mm.
go out there put the ball in the hands of your targets and do us like and win games for us and I look at the defense as well and it's like that like to me is the other part of this where I'm like Brian Flores is holding together so much of this defense where it's like it it's tough to evaluate what is and isn't real within that.
And the defense part is where I want to start because Brian Flores worked magic last year. Like he legit
Yeah.
kept that team afloat at times. And he did it with like the injuries that they had as well as like him having just not the best personnel that he had to move around. Like I mean, Brian Flores is one of those guys where it's like his defense can look different week to week to week to week. And he can just get real
Yes.
creative with it. And he's got guys where like if he had a Kyle Hamilton or a Derwin James, like it would be like Nirvana for him, man. But like instead, he's got Jamal Adams, who they just signed, and like that's the best he's gonna have to work with that. And because they lost Harrison Smith, so now it's like, what do you do to replace him? A guy who did a lot for your team, even when he was older. So now it's like you have to replace that. The cornerback room, I'm still like, I don't know. Like I like Isaiah Rodgers, Byron Murphy's fine, but like there's not a lot of depth there, and I get a little worried. Especially, I mean, the safety spot is a huge question mark for this team. The linebackers are fine, and then the D line, I'm like, cool. You got Caleb Banks there. Van Ginkel does fun, creative stuff with Brian Flores at times, but it's just like I think Brian Flores has like an uphill battle. I mean, he seems to always have an uphill battle, but like he has a real uphill battle this year with this defensive
Yeah.
staff and personnel, where it's like I don't know if he can do it again. I really don't. Like, if like in my mind, and this is not a slight on Jamal Adams, but like the fact that you're bringing him in to supplement your defense right now is like it's not really the greatest sign, right? Uh,
Yeah.
so I don't know. I'm a big believer in Brian Flores. I'm not a big believer in that defensive roster. And then yeah, on
Yes.
the offensive side, I don't care about anything but who the fucking starting quarterback is going to be. And it's asinine to me that we have to talk about a quarterback, quote unquote quarterback competition with these guys where you're taking starting snaps away from Kyler Murray in training camp. Can we just be for real here? Can we actually be for real? JJ McCarthy was terrible last year. He was one of the worst quarterbacks we've ever seen, like historically bad. And that's not even me being like facetious. Like he was historically bad last year. Kyler Murray is a productive and good quarterback. I don't care what people say about his size. I know people worry about it. He's bigger than you think he is. He can run around. He can do a lot for you with the pause. He can do a lot for you like in multiple ways. Like he just offers so much for you too. And think about his arm too. Like the arm talent is crazy. Like all I'm seeing in my mind is deep crossers to Jordan Addison and Justin Jefferson who are butt ass open running down the field, and then Juwan Jennings who is your like possessions. Like screw it, he's down there somewhere. Like I'm just gonna throw it up and hope he goes get it. So it's like
Well, to be fair, Justin Jefferson is also that.
yeah, you
But like
also have
I
and
get what you
Addison.
mean.
That's what I'm saying. Like this
Yeah.
receiver trio is crazy, and you cannot waste an opportunity like this with this kind of like skill position talent on a guy like JJ McCarthy. You just can't. That's just negligent. And the fact that they're doing this training camp bullshit where they're saying like, oh, it's a competition. Just you have to, as a coach and even as a GM at this point, just step in and be like, look, like I understand we drafted him high. I don't care. We were 9-8 last year. We're in a window here with Justin Jefferson, who was like you said, like they were bickering at the end of last year. He was clearly upset. Like their offense basically gave up last year. I know O'Connell might not want to hear that, but like their offense would like those last few games, they didn't look like they wanted to be out there at all. It was bad.
Yeah.
Kyler Murray can fix that. I don't care what people's stigmas are about him. I'm also like you, a big believer in Kyler Murray. It's purely even just for his arm, man. Like you got to get him out there because you know he's a veteran quarterback who can come in there and like you were 9-8 last year with the quarterbacks that you had. Imagine if you had still had Sam Darnold, or or you had Kyler Murray last year. Like how much better that could have been for your team. Don't waste that opportunity this year, especially when, in my mind, I do think your defense will. It's not going to be bad, but I do think it will regress a little bit. So you're going to need your offense to have that extra firepower, and Kyler Murray brings that for you.
Yeah. The
That's
final
all I
thing
have to
I'll
say.
add
Like
about
that's literally it for the Vikings with me.
final thing I'll add is that I think we talked about Kelvin Shepard and the Lions and like last year taking advantage of what was a very poor defense where it was like next man up. That to me, like as bad as it may have seemed, like he did a phenomenal job, and like I think it's too much of to ask of Brian Flores, even though I think he's a better defensive mind, to
Mm.
do the same thing with the Vikings defense this year, just because like he like Shepard was working with at least a floor of like, all right, like I have some talent who at least understood the system. I know what this may look like, and I can get this week to week and make this work. I look at that Vikings like secondary, and I'm like,
There's only so much you can do as a good and a really good really great defensive coordinator. Like yes, he can do a lot of creative things for you, and he can like raise the floor of your defense for you. Like Patrick Graham with the Raiders, right? Did that. Think about Evero it with the Panthers. Like he's one of my top three favorite defensive coordinators in the league, but he's been in purgatory with the Panthers for like so many years now. People forget how goddamn good he was when he was with the Broncos and how good he is in general. And then so
yeah,
now with Brian Flores, it's like I don't want that to happen to Flores, where it's just like now he's suffocating with the Vikings because all these draft picks, by the way, that they spent on the defensive side of the ball, like it feels like none of them are hitting, like none of them, and they're just screwing over Brian Flores on that
yeah,
side of the ball. And then some of it, like, look, I'm not saying he's perfect. Like, yes, does he make mistakes as a coordinator sometimes? Yeah, but like, would it be a lot easier for him if this team could actually draft someone on defense who could step in and help? Probably. So I just like I feel bad for him, and I'm like, part of me is like, I can't really blame him for what happens this season. I know he's going to do the best he can do. He's going to be creative, but the personnel can only help take you so far.
yeah. All right. Um, all right. Final standing predictions. I'll go. I have the Lions finishing first. I have the Bears second. I have the Vikings third and the Packers fourth. And I know, like, even saying it out loud, it's kind of crazy. I
This
have a
division is
lot
really
more
hard.
faith. What happened?
This division is really hard.
Yeah, I think this will be a situation where it's like they like similar to how they were this year, where it's like 9-8, 8-9, some combination. I think we'll see multiple teams like even the bottom two finish around there just because of how competitive this is, where they'll win games off each other. You think about the Bears last season, how much luck happened in like those games, like a couple you drop those to the Packers, you drop those to the Lions. Like this is a different division, so I look at this and say like the floor that this team the Vikings have offensively with a healthy Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, that receiving core, and then Kyler Murray potentially leading it. That to me is more hope than I have in the Packers defense, especially without Micah Parsons that first couple weeks. And then an inconsistent offense where it's like you're asking for Matthew Gold to take a big leap in his second year. You're asking for Jaden Reed to continue to be an effective receiver for you. You're asking, Christian Watson to stay healthy for you. Like to me, and I know the defensive aspect of this for the Vikings. I still think, and I know what I just said about Kevin Shepard and Brian Flores. Brian Flores is still going to do enough to win games for you, and I think that is the positive thing. It's not going to be like to the effect that we saw this past season with the Lions and what they were able to do defensively. It'll still look good to some degree. There will be growing pains, of course, just because of the lack of support he has. But I look at this and say, I still think this Vikings team will finish above the Packers. And that could be crazy. I could look like a fool at the end of the season, but I'm going to say Lions, Bears, Vikings, and the Packers.
Yeah, I didn't realize how down I was on this division as we were going through it. I was like, dang, like, I really don't like a lot of this. Um, okay, so I'm gonna go. I feel like this could be like one of the new NFC East things where it's like you're not gonna have a repeat division winner for like a while. But I will go Lions, Bears, Vikings, Packers. Good God. I can't believe it. And literally, I think for the Packers, for me, like my main thing is the Micah Parsons aspect of it, where it's like they're going to miss him for like almost like the first entire half of the season. And I think, especially, I don't think people realize how clutch Micah Parsons was for that Packers defense when he was out there. The fourth quarter sacks were insane. like there were games where it was like, okay, Micah Parsons is out there, he's doing good things, he's setting the edge, but like he's not able to get a sack. And then the fourth quarter comes and it's a crucial moment, and who is making the big play to win the game for the Packers on defense? It's Micah Parsons. Well, you're not going to have that for kind of like at least the first 6 weeks of the season. And I do think if they get off those slow start, they could just be kind of like, even in a weaker, somewhat, I don't know if it's a weak division, but like a challenging division like this, where everyone's kind of in a rock fight all the time. They're, if they get off the slow start and they can't get Micah Parsons going like quickly, even when he gets back, because like he still has to work his way back. I just think the Packers are going to get off to a bad start and it's going to make them suffer.
I think it'll be tough. And I think I completely agree with you, which is why the Packers finishing last in this division. It's because like when you Micah, like everything you echoed, and I think like you mentioned the rock fight, and you mentioned how crazy it's going to be. Those early season wins are going to be so important when every team is trying to find their footing. Like we could be like the Lions could start off terribly, but like at the end of the day, the Lions are going to show that offense is going to come through. Like
Yeah.
the defense is going to get into position. Everything is going to click for the Bears offensively. Caleb Williams is going to do Superman hero stuff. Like you factor in all of that, and I think those teams will click a lot faster than the Packers will defensively, just because so much of their defense clicking relies on the big acquisition of Micah Parsons coming in and being that like it factor for them.
Yeah. Hey man, we'll see. That was a tough division to go through and pick.
Yeah. Well, it's even crazier next week when we tackle the AFC East and the NFC East, which I
Easy. Easy.
easy for you.
Nah, I'm just.
Okay. I was like, oh, I know even the Eagles fan in me is like, oh, nah,
No, I'll say it right now, the Cowboys got me a little worried.
We will see. Let's save it for next week. Let's keep it. Let's not jump into it.
Agreed.
Hey,
but
anything
else we need to talk about? Any other picks or predictions?
Beat me to it. We both tried to close the show. This is your duty. I don't have anything else to add. You can go ahead and send us out here.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for listening or watching. We really appreciate it. We're gonna, like I said, we're gonna be pumping these out every week, and then obviously once the season starts, we'll be doing that as well. So we're both very excited to be talking about the football again, learning and growing and getting better. I mean, yes, dude. The NFL season always is like, it kind of always sneaks up on me, but then like all of a sudden, like 2 days ago, I was like, oh yeah, Hall of Fame game. Like that is actually coming up. And then it's just like, boom, everything gets off and running. So can't wait for it, man. I'm sure there's going to be some big stuff that even happens before the season that we'll have to talk about. And then we're going to keep going through these divisions. But thank you everybody for listening or watching. I've been Ty. That's Jay. We'll be back again next week.